Thank you, John. While our emphasis is 300 days of grazing, we also have cattle that are out there utilizing that forage. And so as part of this program, we also wanted to demonstrate cattle management practices as well, those practices that we recommend in our extension programs. To give you a definition of what our cow herd initially looked like and how it's grown over the four-year period, now into our fifth year. We began with 38 cows. Average body weight was about 1,032 pounds. It's a little bit light considering, many of our cow herds in Arkansas is probably going to average somewhere around 1,150 to 1,250 pounds. But if you look at the average age of this cow herd, we started with quite a few first calf heifers in this herd, and so our average age was around 2.7 years of age. Our beef cows are predominantly balancer cross females. The experiment station where these cows originated, they were utilizing balancer bulls for a period of time, and so they're predominantly balancer females. It's a fall calving herd, so if you think about calving seasons, we're taking cows into the winter period with the highest stage of production. They're lactating, and so their nutrient requirements are going to be quite high. Our overall breeding management from 2008 through 2012, we started out with 38 cows and maintained that number of cows until about 2010, and we took on the notion of maybe as we needed to replace cows from within the herd. And so that year we retained 5 heifers from the herd, and in addition we brought over 10 first calf heifers from our Savoy Research Station, which is located in northwest Arkansas. In 2011, we're back to 38 cows. You'll see in the next slide, or the next couple of slides, we didn't have a real good success of maintaining our retained heifers and these first calf heifers in this cow herd. But in 2011, we're still at that 38 cow number. Our average age has increased a little bit. Now we're at an average of 4.6 years of age. In 2012, and these all reflect the number of cows at the beginning of our fall breeding season, we had 40 cows. And so we had a transition that this year we were going to expand our cow numbers as we looked at the ability to graze in excess of 300 days, that we wanted to look at that over a period of time with greater stocking rates. And then we have a severe drought that really impacts our ability to carry more cattle. And so we reduced our cow numbers to 40 cows in early summer. The breeding management for this cow herd has been to lease 2 Hereford bulls. We thought maybe an education on leasing bulls as an alternative to owning bulls would be something that we could educate producers about, since we're talking about a cow herd size of 38 females. One thing that we emphasize in our cow herd and try to teach cattle producers around the state is to utilize a breeding soundness evaluation annually. In 2011, we did begin to include trichomoniasis testing. There has been several incidences in the state of Arkansas where herds, bulls have tested positive for trick, and so we've implemented trichomoniasis testing for the bulls that we utilize. To give an example of the importance of breeding soundness evaluations, the very first year we had one of the 2 bulls fail. Our breeding season is December and January, 60-day breeding season. These cows breed up very quickly. We'll have most of our females calved out within 45 days. EPDs, when we go to the producer that we lease the bulls from, we select those bulls that typically represent the top 10 to 40% of the breed for those pre-weaning growth traits. Pregnancy examination, we follow up these cows every year, late March, early April. We pull blood samples for pregnancy tests, send those off for the bioprint test. That's been a very useful tool. It's something that cattle producers can go out and utilize themselves to pull blood samples, send those off. It costs about the same amount of money as getting a vet on your place to do a palpation test. Culling, we always cull our open females. It's either a female that's lost a calf between pregnancy testing and weaning. We sell them whether they're open or if they lose a calf. We do not have any sympathy for our cow herd. Health management, our cows, we follow the annual booster deworming programs that's recommended by Jeremy Powell, our extension veterinarian. Utilize a 7-way for clostridial type diseases, then our respiratory plus lepto and vibrio. We deworm twice a year, spring and fall. The calves, management pre-weaning, we castrate all males at birth. Then about 3 months of age, many times every year those cattle will be implanted. We've used Railgrove Synovex C implants. Generally occurs about 90 days of age. At that same time, they'll be given their first blackleg shot, and then the calves, under our retained ownership program, will follow up with the seven-way boosters, and then we'll use the 4-way respiratory disease and booster that as well. We really emphasize the importance of boostering cattle to get the full immune response. We'll re-implant if we're retaining ownership of steers. And then we also utilize fence line weaning management. Some general results summary. The initial year, we had an 84% calf crop percentage. We received 38 cows. This is a new herd to us. We get a producer out there that's getting started with the new herd. They can't step into that herd expecting a 90+% calf crop percentage. If you look at where our mature cows have settled in beyond the first year in 2008, 2009, year 2, we're at a 95% calf crop percentage. The following year we're at 100%. It's amazing what twinning will do for your calf crop percentage. Then if we look at that 2010, 2011, look at the calf crop percentage. You notice I talked about the troubles we had with our heifers and those purchased females, those first calf heifers. We had problems getting our replacement heifers bred up, and then we had a problem with weaning calves from those first calf heifers. And so that was quite low. We've since then stepped away from the young females, and we've just been using cows for replacements. And so our mature cows have been settling in, for the most part, at 90+% calf crop percentage. If we look specifically at the cows that we've sold, these percentages don't reflect a percentage of the total cattle, but these represent percentages relative to the ones that were sold. Why did we have to turn these cattle over? And so if we look at our turnover rate, 34%, a third of our cattle we've turned over because of fescue foot and fescue related problems. I think this is quite interesting given the forage management that Dr. Jennings just discussed in terms of trying to integrate clovers into the toxic fescue stands, not being on endophyte infected fescue, 365 days out of the year. Even with our current management, the way it is that we're still having problems with endophyte infected fescue. With our calves, we've sold cows. About 15% of the cows that we've sold have been due to losing a calf post-weaning. Then 13% of our turnover of cows have been replacements because a cow has died. And then we've had about a 1/3 of our cows not becoming pregnant. And that's over the entire 4-year summary there, which most of those cow problems were in that initial year, that year 1. We collect weaning weight data for our cow herd. We put those through our cow herd performance testing program. We believe that's very important in terms of managing a cow herd. To summarize these numbers, not to go into any great specific detail, the columns at the top represent the 4 years, and then over here at the side I have what I call the slope or the change over year for these various measures. Then these rows of tabular numbers here. We've got steer weaning weight, heifer weaning weight. I'm going to talk about the overall weaning weight, just combine steers and heifers together. We've started out that first year weaning calves off at 437 pounds. Those were balancer cross calves. Those cows were already bred when we received them. Since that point, we started utilizing those Hereford bulls, and as I mentioned, we try to choose bulls that represent the top ratioing bulls in the breed. And so if we look at the change of weaning weight over this 4-year period, we have been gaining about 21 pounds of weaning weight per year. If we take a look at pounds weaned per cow exposed, I really like that concept of the overall picture of weaning weight tied to reproductive efficiency. Our pounds weaned per cow exposed that very first year was only 367 pounds. We are dealing with lighter weaning weights in addition to that 84% calf crop percentage. Since then, we've seen that number range between 440 to just over 500 pounds. The change over year has been about 33-pound improvement per year, but it's been highly variable. And so as we look at this, it seems like beyond the first year, we've settled into a pretty even kilt on a 440, 454 pounds weaned per cow exposed. Our cow efficiency, that reflects the ratio of the calf's weaning weight relative to its dam's weight. And so if a cow's weaning 50, if a cow weighs 1,000 pounds and her calf is weaned off at 500, then that would be a 50% weaning weight efficiency. The year one, we were at 43%. Our rate of change over year has been 1.1%, so it's really settled in around that 45% to 50% cow efficiency. Our cow body condition score at weaning time, the first year averaged a body condition score of 5. Then we've seen it settle in around the 5.5 to 6 body condition score range. Not much change year over year in body condition score. Our cow weights have increased year over year. That very first year, as I mentioned, we had quite a few first calf heifers in that cow herd. They've matured. We've replaced cows. Our current mature cow weight is right there around 1,100 pounds. So our cow weight has increased about 28 pounds per year. Part of that could be due to a change in body condition score as well, since one body condition score is equal to about 75 to 100 pounds of body weight. As I mentioned earlier, that we do retain ownership of these calves, or we've always evaluated the decision at the point of weaning. Do we want to retain ownership? Do we have the available forage to graze these calves? And then as we get into that grazing program, how long do we want to continue grazing? Because we have two things that we have to consider as we graze these calves that are weaned off during late spring, early summer, is that we are having a change in market, and we're having a shift in forage quality through that grazing period. For the most part, our grazing program has been one that has started there in May and has pretty much wrapped up no later than the middle of July. Once we get to the middle of July, our warm season grass quality really declines, and so we're going to have to really rely on market conditions to improve or increase our returns after that point, and not so much weight gain after that point. To look at this data as a brief summary here, the first column is just years 1 through 4. This is the weaning weight of the calves when they began grazing. The value of these calves in that third column. One thing, Dr. Troxell mentioned is feed, fuel, and fertilizer, greater cost. Just think what our beef production situation would be like today if we didn't have a greater value in our cow herd due to our low national cow herd inventory. That very first year, our calves there at weaning time were worth $1.10 a pound. How do we get these values? We have a market news reporter that reports out of our sale barns in the area that's where our Batesville herd's located. He comes in and puts a current value for each of our calves when we run the cow herd performance. And so these were valued at $1.10 at that weaning time. The second year they were valued at $1.13. Third year $1.33. This past year $1.65. And so as we think about retained ownership, we've got calves that are worth more and more money, so it's kind of more and more difficult to say, well, I'm going to consider retaining ownership. This just reflects the weaning total value of these calves as we take the weight times the value. Our post-weaning weights, I won't spend any specific on that post-weaning weight, but if we take a look at the average daily gain that we've observed, is that we've ranged anywhere from just over 1 to 1.8 pounds per day of gain during that early summer period when these calves are grazing Bermuda grass. The number of days that these calves have grazed has varied as forage conditions have changed from year to year. As mentioned, or as Dr. Jennings mentioned, was that the year 3 was kind of droughty. Year 4 was very droughty, so we did sell these calves much earlier than what we initially anticipated. The value of these calves at the point that we chose to market them, that first year they were worth $1.01 a pound. Look at this second year. Going into the grazing period, they were worth $1.13. We added weight and we sold them for 2 cents more per pound. If we look at that third year, they came in at $1.33 a pound, or their value. They went out very close to the same value at $1.31 a pound. So there was opportunity there to demonstrate to cattle producers that, hey, here's an opportunity to increase the income in your cow herd. Short-term retained ownership on some forage that's capable of getting you 1.5, maybe not quite 2 pounds per day of gain. Overall, we have seen, however, the overall value difference as we look at the final value of those calves when we sold them versus what they would have potentially sold for if we'd have sold them at weaning. Overall, we have seen, a positive return all 4 years. This past year, we brought an extra $1,000 into the ranch by retaining ownership. If we look back at years 1 and 2 and 3, we brought anywhere from $2,400 up to almost $3,500 through that retained ownership program. Now, if we look at the ratio of that post-weaning value to that initial value, yes, that has declined year over year. The first 2 years, we were seeing about a 13% return. If we look at year 3, it dropped to about 8.6%, and this past year at 3.4%. That's probably a combination of, one, is that as we look at the initial calf value increasing substantially here in this past year, and then also, length of retained ownership and the total weight gain that we achieved over that grazing period. Overall, we've seen a slight reduction, about a 3% reduction year over year in retained ownership, but we haven't lost money through retained ownership. We always saw an increase in the value of those calves. That's just a quick synopsis of our beef cattle management, and now I'll turn the program over to Dr. Troxel so he can get in depth with our cow-calf enterprise budget.